right, ready to dive deep into some fascinating research today. Game theory's on the menu, but with a twist.
Yeah, we're going to see if we can train some, well, artificial ants to crack the code of the prisoner's dilemma.
Okay, now I know what you might be thinking. Ants. Those tiny picnic crashers hold the secrets to, like, strategic genius.
Well, hold on. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. It's not about individual brilliance with ants, right? But their colony behavior. That's where things get really interesting, especially when you apply it to a classic problem like the prisoner's dilemma.
Right, right. For those who haven't encountered the prisoner's dilemma before, can you give us that quick rundown? Why is it such a brain twister?
Absolutely. Imagine two people, they've committed a crime, right? They're being interrogated separately, totally unable to communicate. The authorities, they offer each of them a deal. Betray your partner, confess, and you might get off easy, especially if your partner stays silent.
So there's a big incentive to be the rat.
Exactly. But here's where the dilemma kicks in. See? If both suspects, they betray each other, they both end up with a worse outcome than if they had both just stayed silent.
So it's like they're trapped by their own self-interest. If they could just trust each other, they'd both be better off. But that fear of being played, well, leads to a worse outcome for both.
Yeah.
No wonder it's called a dilemma.
Exactly. This is where game theory comes in. Provides a framework for understanding these situations where individual rationality can lead to, well, a collectively suboptimal result.
Right. Okay.
Now, things get even more interesting when we introduce the iterated prisoner's dilemma, or IPD.
Okay.
Instead of a single round, the game is played repeatedly, and crucially, the players don't know how many rounds there will be.
So now it's not just about the immediate payoff. There's a whole long game to consider.
Exactly.
If you screw over your partner now, they might retaliate later.
Precisely. The IPD, it introduces this element of long-term strategy and the potential for building trust, or at least the fear of punishment, right?
Yep.
This is where strategies like tit for tat come in.
Okay.
It's incredibly simple, but surprisingly effective.
Tit for tat. That rings a bell.
Yeah.
Isn't that the strategy where you just copy what your opponent did in the previous round?
Yes.
Like, if they cooperated last time, you cooperate.
Right.
But if they betrayed you, well, you get them back.
You got it. Tit for tat starts by cooperating, shows good faith, but then it mirrors the opponent's actions, rewarding cooperation and punishing defection.
Makes sense.
This makes it much harder for more, let's say, cutthroat strategies to take advantage in the long run.
So in a way, it's like teaching the other player to play nice or face the consequences.
Precisely. And that brings us to the heart of this deep dive.
Okay.
The researchers wanted to see if algorithms could discover strategies as effective as tit for tat, or maybe even better, within this framework of the IPD.
So how do you get an algorithm to play the prisoner's dilemma? Like, do you create some super intelligent AI that makes its own decisions?
Not exactly a sentient AI. The researchers used something called a genetic algorithm, or GA for short.
A genetic algorithm. Okay, break that down for me. How do genes and algorithms come together to play games?
Picture this: a population of digital strategies, each represented by a string of code, like a chromosome. These strategies then play against each other in the IPD.
Wow.
The ones that perform the best, meaning they rack up the most points or rewards, are selected to reproduce.
So the strategies that have figured out a good way to play get to pass on their genes, and the ones that aren't as successful, well, they're out of luck.
Precisely. Just like natural selection, the fittest strategies survive and reproduce.
Right.
This reproduction involves combining elements of the winning strategies and occasionally throwing in random mutations to shake things up.
So it's like survival of the fittest, but instead of claws and teeth, they're battling it out with lines of code and strategic brilliance.
Exactly.
Huh.
And to make the simulation even more realistic, they designed these GA experiments to closely mimic the conditions of an iterated prisoner's dilemma.
This is getting good.
Yeah.
So tell me, did these digital Darwinists crack the code? Did they evolve strategies that could outsmart even the most cunning human opponent?
Well, the results were promising. The GAs did evolve strategies that tended towards cooperation, but there was a catch.
A catch. You've got my attention. What was the hiccup in this digital utopia?
They found that sometimes this hard-earned cooperation would suddenly fall apart, causing the average payoff to just plummet. They called these sudden drops glitches.
Glitches. Okay, that does sound a bit ominous. What was causing these glitches? Were the algorithms getting bored with all the cooperation?
Not boredom, but it's related to the delicate balance of the game itself. Think of it like a market bubble.
Okay.
When everyone is cooperating and things are humming along, it creates an opportunity for a rogue strategy to emerge. one that's designed to exploit all that good faith.
So while everyone else is playing nice, these sneaky defectors are just waiting to pounce and take advantage.
Exactly. Once this defector strategy pops up, it can exploit the overly trusting cooperative strategies, causing the whole system to crash until new, more robust strategies can evolve.
It's like that constant tug-of-war between cooperation and competition, even in the digital world.
Yes.
So the GAs were on the right track, but they needed a way to deal with those pesky defectors who were throwing a wrench into their cooperative utopia.
Yes.
But before we get into how the researchers tackled that challenge, let's pause here for a moment and let our listeners process all of this.
Okay.
We've covered a lot of ground, from the basics of the prisoner's dilemma to the fascinating world of genetic algorithms.
We have.
But the story doesn't end there. Get ready for an unexpected twist in our next act, where we see how researchers turn to the animal kingdom for inspiration. Okay, so we've got these digital strategies, right? They're evolving, learning to cooperate,
Right.
but still vulnerable to those cunning defectors.
Yeah.
What did the researchers do next?
Well, they took inspiration from an unexpected source.
Ants.
Ants. Okay, now I've heard it all. I'm picturing a line of ants carrying tiny algorithms on their backs, you know?
Not quite. Not quite. It's not about ants physically playing the game.
Okay.
It's about harnessing the power of their collective behavior.
Okay.
Specifically, a process called ant colony optimization, or ACO.
ACO, I've heard that term, but I'll admit I don't fully get it.
Yeah.
What's so special about how ants operate?
Well, ants are masters of efficiency.
Right.
They use pheromones, chemical signals,
Wait.
to communicate and navigate.
Hmm.
Imagine each possible move in the prisoner's dilemma,
Okay.
cooperate or defect, as a path. As our virtual ants travel these paths,
Right.
they leave behind a virtual pheromone trail.
So it's like leaving a breadcrumb trail,
Yeah.
marking the route they've taken.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The more successful a path is, meaning it leads to a higher payoff in the prisoner's dilemma,
Right.
the stronger the pheromone trail becomes.
Other ants are more likely to follow strong trails,
Right.
amplifying the success of those strategies.
So instead of genes and mutations like in the genetic algorithm, it's the pheromone trails that guide the evolution of strategies in ACO.
Yeah.
That's really cool, using virtual scent trails to guide digital decisions.
It is, isn't it? And here's the really clever part. Those pheromone trails,
Yeah.
they aren't permanent. They gradually fade over time.
That makes sense. Otherwise, they'd be stuck following the same old paths.
Exactly. This fading allows the ACO algorithm to stay adaptable,
Right.
explore new possibilities, and avoid getting stuck in a rut,
Right.
which is essential in a dynamic game like the prisoner's dilemma.
This is fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
So we've got these virtual ants, they're virtual pheromone trails.
Yeah.
But did it actually translate into effective strategies? Could they hold their own in the prisoner's dilemma?
The initial results were promising.
Okay.
The ACO, just like the genetic algorithm,
Yeah.
led to strategies that favored cooperation.
That's encouraging. But knowing this deep dive, I suspect there's a but coming.
You're right on cue.
Okay.
While the ant-developed strategies were good,
Right.
they weren't invincible.
Okay.
They were still vulnerable to those pure defector strategies we talked about earlier.
So even the clever ants, or their algorithms at least, couldn't entirely escape the allure of betrayal.
It seems not. Those purely selfish strategies were still able to exploit the more cooperative ones, at least at first.
Okay, I'm on the edge of my seat here.
Yeah.
What happened next?
Oh, well,
Did the researchers just accept defeat?
not at all. They realized that even though their ACO algorithm showed promise,
Yeah.
it needed some fine-tuning.
Okay.
They needed to give those cooperative ants a bit more, well, backbone.
Okay. I'm intrigued. How do you toughen up a virtual ant?
They tweaked the ACO algorithm to reward strategies that punish defection more severely.
Okay.
Remember, the virtual ants, they're more likely to follow strong pheromone trails, right?
Right.
Those associated with higher payoffs. By making the punishment for defection more costly,
Right.
they made those cooperative, retaliatory paths much more appealing to the ants.
So it's like laying down a superhighway of pheromones that scream, "Sure, cooperate if you like, but betray us and you'll regret it."
Yeah.
That's brilliant. Did this pheromone boost work? Did it make the ant colony more resilient?
It absolutely did. This seemingly small change had a huge impact.
Wow.
The ACO strategies became remarkably robust. They could withstand those pure defector strategies
Right.
while still cooperating with nice strategies like tit for tat.
Wow, that's That's incredible. They found a way to make cooperation a winning strategy,
Right.
even in the face of potential betrayal. What a fantastic example of how a small tweak can lead to a huge difference in outcome.
It really is. It highlights the power of understanding incentives, even in something as seemingly simple as a virtual ant colony.
This is mind-blowing stuff. We've gone from the prisoner's dilemma to genetic algorithms,
Right.
and now ant-inspired optimization. Where do we even go from here?
Well, the real magic is in what this all means beyond the digital world of simulations and algorithms. And that's what we'll unravel in the final part of our deep dive.
Right.
We'll explore how these fascinating findings connect to the complexities of the real world.
So we've gone on this incredible journey from like the theoretical world of game theory to this surprising realm of ant-inspired algorithms. But this whole time,
Right.
I keep coming back to one question. What does it all really mean? You know?
Yeah.
Like, it's easy to get caught up in the cool factor of virtual ants, right?
Right.
But how does this connect to our lives, to the real world?
That's the key question. And it's exciting because the prisoner's dilemma, even though we've been talking about it as a game, it's actually a powerful model for understanding how cooperation plays out in all sorts of real-world scenarios.
Right. It's like that saying, life imitates art, but in this case, it's more like life imitates game theory.
Right.
We see these same dilemmas everywhere, don't we?
Absolutely. Think about something like international trade agreements.
Yep.
Countries have to decide, right?
Right.
Are they going to cooperate, play by the rules, even if it means short-term sacrifices?
Right.
Or are they going to act in their own self-interest, even if it risks a trade war? That could hurt everyone in the long run.
It's like that constant tension between what's best for the individual versus what's best for the group. And just like in the prisoner's dilemma,
Yeah.
Finding ways to encourage cooperation.
Right.
It's essential. Otherwise, we all end up worse off.
Precisely. And it's not just international relations. Think about environmental issues like climate change. Perfect example. Each country, even each individual, right,
Right.
might be tempted to say, well, if I just look out for myself, it won't make that much of a difference.
Right.
But of course, if everyone thinks that way, we end up with a planet in crisis.
It is a sobering thought. Like we're all playing this massive game of prisoner's dilemma,
Yeah.
and the stakes are incredibly high, which makes this research into algorithms that promote cooperation
Right.
all the more significant.
Exactly. Because while algorithms might not have all the answers, they can give us valuable insights.
Right.
For instance, seeing how that small tweak to the ACO algorithm, making it more punishing of defection,
Right.
led to such a huge increase in robustness. That's a powerful finding.
So it's not just about creating like nice algorithms,
Right.
but algorithms that understand the importance of setting boundaries,
Yes,
having consequences for bad behavior.
precisely. And that's something we can apply to real-world systems, right?
Right.
Whether we're designing economic policies, environmental regulations,
Right.
even social media platforms, understanding these principles of game theory,
Right.
of balancing incentives.
Right. So maybe these algorithms, these virtual ants, they're not just playing games after all.
Right.
Maybe they're showing us a path toward a more cooperative future.
It's an exciting prospect, isn't it? Now,
Yeah.
I'm not saying algorithms are a magic bullet, right?
Right.
The real world is incredibly messy and complex.
Oh, yeah.
But by exploring these models, right?
By learning from these simulations,
Yeah.
we gain a deeper understanding of what makes cooperation thrive.
And that understanding is so valuable, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely.
It can help us make more informed decisions, design more effective systems, and hopefully, navigate the challenges of our interconnected world.
Absolutely. Because ultimately, our ability to cooperate, to find common ground, even amidst all these competing interests,
Right.
that's what will determine our collective success.
Well said. It's been quite a journey, this deep dive into game theory, artificial ants, and this delicate dance of cooperation and competition.
It really has.
We hope you've enjoyed this exploration as much as we have, and the next time you encounter a seemingly simple choice, a decision about whether to cooperate or act solely in your own self-interest.
Right.
Remember those virtual ants, their pheromone trails, and the surprising power of collective intelligence.
It's amazing.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and never underestimate the power of a good strategy.